Gold speculation reaches a record low. Could this be the perfect time to start acquiring gold assets? Amir Nani, top resource entrepreneur and recipient of Casey's 10-Bagger Club, thinks so. In an environment where nearly 70% of TSX venture mining companies have a market cap of less than $5 million, Amir's new gold company, Brazil Resources, just raised $6.4 million through an oversubscribed private placement, with the biggest buyers being management, Doug Casey of Casey Capital Strategies, and legendary investor Rick Rule. BRI also just completed the acquisition of Brazilian Gold Corp, which will more than double their in-ground gold minerals. Brazil Resources seizing the opportunity. Greetings and thank you for joining us at FutureMoneyTrends.com. I'm here with a good friend, Bill Murphy of La Metropole Cafe. He is also part of the organization GATA, GATA.org, which is a civil rights organization that has sued the Fed and won, is fighting the big bullion banks and trying to expose the Treasury Department, Federal Reserve, and this big collusion in the manipulation of the gold price and other precious metals as well, specifically silver. Bill and GATA have met with the former Speaker of the House, Lawrence Lindsay, Ron Paul, and like I've said, they've actually got a lawsuit against the Fed that they won. Bill, thank you so much for joining us.
Great to be here, Dan. Good to hear from you.
Bill, in the last year, gold manipulation has really gone mainstream. I mean, we've seen articles in the Financial Times, Bloomberg, and others. And in fact, as recently as Monday, we had an article about individual citizens, pension funds, and hedge fund managers suing the big bullion banks. And it seems that this thing is unraveling. What's your thoughts?
It's begun, and I guess that's the key word. It's just beginning, because still the major part of the manipulation with what we call the gold cartel, the bullion banks, and the government, and the Bank for International Settlements, to say the Fed and the Treasury. It's about the manipulation of the gold and silver markets on a big picture basis all over the place, and what it represents, and what's behind it, what's it going to mean. And while there's talk about, it's common nowadays to hear about lawsuits against market manipulations and complaints against the London Fix, the real biggie, the big issue about what's really going on with our government involved, nobody will touch it with a 10-foot pole. It's unbelievable after all this time, and we're so close, but no cigar, as they say.
Bill, my concern with gold manipulation is that, like other whistleblowers, like Snowden, where he put his whole life on the line and exposed some really interesting things about what the NSA was doing, kind of confirmed a lot of suspicions for a lot of people. And then nothing happened. No arrests, no government change. Basically, the citizens don't care. And that's kind of my concern with gold. Like, here it's all being kind of exposed that, yeah, they're clearly manipulating the gold price. And just no one seems to care. Do you have the same feelings?
Well, they've been getting away with these, what I call financial market terrorist attacks. These flash crash attacks keep occurring. We just had one a couple of days ago when, gold was hit with something like 40 tons of gold in minutes. I mean, you only have 7 tons of gold mined in a day all over the world. So, I mean, it's ludicrous that it's so obvious what's happening. It's very blatant. They don't care. There's no rule of law. The CFTC is impotent. As GATA has always said now for 15 years, we're taking on the richest, most powerful people in the world, and they rule. So they do whatever they want, and yes, I don't think it's ever going to get anywhere until, and this is a big until, the markets blow up, and that's coming. So it's not like, this is a lost cause in any way. It's just going to take the physical markets to blow up, probably certain defaults, maybe it'll lead eventually to some really big economic issues in the United States. And then when everybody's totally ticked off and the markets are flying, then it'll be okay to go there because the public will demand answers.
Bill, I've always wondered why somebody like a Sprott, who recently said that he was considering suing the banks himself in regards to gold and silver manipulation, why doesn't someone like Sprott, where these markets are so tight, why doesn't he throw 50 to 100 million or partner up with a few people and throw a few $100 million at it and bust this thing wide open like a piñata, specifically in the silver market where the physical market is really tight?
I think it's the leftover from what happened to Bunker Hunt and the Hunt brothers. What happened way back when and they weren't doing anything. They were just buying up the market. and the whole system went against them. It's left a very bad taste about going after the silver market. I asked the same thing, and you're correct, but it's a bit scary. I can tell you a story I know for a fact back in the Fibro days, involved in the silver market, and I think back then, the Berkshire Hathaway. My mind's going a little bit slow here. Warren Buffett was running the show there, and Fibro, through their broker, Jimmy DiPiazza, another fella, had the market cornered. And it was a wild story because they bought really zillions worth of options at 5 1/4, and on 1 month, the market went out that day at $5, and all the people had written all the calls were all laughing because they made all this money, and Fibro didn't get anywhere. And Fibro decided to take delivery with the price 25 cents below the market. There, 525 calls, and it set off a complete panic in the silver market. The price started to go nuts, and the government stepped in and said, "Listen, you know, Warren Buffett, you can do whatever you want in your operation, but you're going to have the Fed down your throat, audited in every way imaginable for the next 10 years if you don't get out of the silver market."
Wow. Well, I guess the gold manipulation, where it's most clear is and obvious, is the gold fix. And I want to get into this Bloomberg article that came out in February that I'm sure you're very familiar with. But before we do, if you could just talk to people, what is the gold fix? What does it do?
Well, simplistically, it's an AM fix and a PM fix in London, in which the price is set for the day for physical deals done all over the world. And the PM fix is the real important one. That's where 85 or 90% of all the deals that are contracted all over the world, that's the price you get if you're going to sell silver that day, and that's the price you'll have to pay to buy it. So it's a big deal in terms of how physical markets are priced. And no matter what people say a lot of times in our world about the paper market and physical market, and at the end of the day, the key is what the PM fix is in terms of deals. And in the end of the day, you know, that rules, and the paper market influences the pricing for sure and what they're doing in the derivatives contracts. And that's a very important aspect of the whole market. But at the end of the day, you know, if you're going to sell your gold, you take what you can get at the PM fix.
Yeah, you guys have been around since 1999 as an organization of GATA, correct?
Yep.
Okay, so this Bloomberg article noted that after the PM gold fix, overwhelmingly the price spiked down, and even in 2010 it went down 92% of the time. But this really started in 2004, and I wanted to ask you, you know, you guys watch this stuff on a daily basis. Why since 2004? Why not, you know, why not since 2008, for example? And I guess the question is, you know, is it because the bull market was kind of getting underway and maybe possibly out of control?
Well, that's a good question, Dan, and I'm not sure I can do that justice. But what I can do justice, I've been writing about the anomalies and the trading curiosities in the gold market all this time. And you mentioned after the PM fix, I've been calling that Plan B since 2004. Been noting it day after day and time again. And there's Plan A, and that's normally when the gold cartel, as we call it, leaves on gold around 3 a.m. New York time when the London traders go to work. And something one of our stars, James McShirley, knows all the time, was a speaker at our huge conference in London almost 3 years ago now. When the gold goes up, he can pencil in what the price is going to stop at or end up at the end of the next day being 1%. That's what they allow it to do. And he's noted this time and time again. It keeps happening, and again, nobody says anything. And so now all of a sudden, after all these years, somebody's finally noticed what we've been talking about since 2004.
Yeah, it is amazing that it's mainstream with Bloomberg and the Financial Times, and of course sites like Zero Hedge covering it. So, what are you and Chris Powell up to with GATA these days?
Well, I'm going to be speaking in Dallas in 3 weeks. I'm looking forward to that. And Chris just got back from Hong Kong, in which he gave a presentation over there. And actually, we got a pretty quiet summer so far. I'm going to be speaking in New Orleans this fall. Unfortunately, the Cambridge House people have scheduled a bunch of things with other conferences, and we've been asked to speak at those other conferences first, so can't go there. But we're ready to move at any time, and you never know when things can pop up out of nowhere that we can go and address.
So how was the reception for Chris Powell in Asia?
Well, it's interesting. Bernie Lowe has been great to us. He used to be on Bloomberg and then is on CNBC in Asia right now, and he's been so great to GATA over these years. And Chris got over there this time, and God bless Bernie. But his editors, I don't think would let him. In fact, I know this for a fact. They wouldn't let Chris go on the show. And it is with all this manipulation talk you mentioned, which is true and valid and growing. The big picture deals, as I mentioned earlier. I know this for a fact that editors will not allow reporters to mention GATA or to get into our subjects, and the key word over and over again is because it is, quote, sensitive. What the heck does that mean? It's sensitive. You mean we're so right? It's that big a deal? And the answer is yes.
Now, Bill, do you guys notice, during a financial crisis or a government crisis, like this thing that recently happened in Ukraine, do you notice an increase in the activity of the manipulation of the gold price during major events like this? Because I'm always shocked, this thing with Ukraine, for example, the Dow's up 100, gold's down $20. It's like, wow, that's kind of the opposite of what I thought would happen.
I have never once in 15 years seen gold keep its gains on an international crisis of any kind. Never one time. And the reason, again, is simple. They don't want to see gold being the safe haven place to go and reflect on everything else. So that's when the sort of times when they go out of their way to hit the gold price. It may rally for a bit because the demand overwhelms them short term, and then they contain it at some point, and then they attack again. And whether it's hours, days, or a week or so, the gains are always taken back. There hasn't been one exception in all the years I've been, well, at least since 1999.
Yeah, it seems like they've knocked it down so low now that it's a very safe investment, especially with it being below the cost of to mine it. How are the miners doing? Do you talk to any of these guys?
Well, I mean, you're right. In many cases, the cost is below production. It's very hard to raise financing. The industry is in a depression. People are going out of work. People are getting fired. It's a very depressing time right now because of what this gold cartel has done. It's affecting people, and that's just what the gold cartel wants people to do: give up and quit. And it's the dichotomy with the Dow keeps going up, and the shares get hit. I mean, heck, even the big ones, Newmont and Barrick, are barely what they were when the price of gold was less than 300. This is astounding. And those are the high tech stocks. The little ones, many of them have gone into oblivion.
Yeah, Marin Katusa was telling me the other day in Vancouver, the vacancies for these commercial properties are way up.
What are you talking about there? I missed that, Dan.
Well, Marin Katusa with Casey Research has an office in Vancouver, and he was talking about a letter he had received from his landlord. So basically, it was to move him or give him a better opportunity in another office space. And anyway, Marin, upon looking into it, had found out that the commercial available office space in Vancouver was literally up like 100%, where you'd seen a huge drop in tenants.
Well, it's interesting. And on the same note, I've always been a fan of the Cambridge House people that run these conferences all over the place, and if you go and check out their Vancouver schedule, half of it's high tech. They've gone from a gold resource conference to a mix. They got one mode area or something. It's high tech people, and the other half is gold and oil and silver. Well, that's astounding because it was 100% natural resources just a year ago.
Yeah, if you recall, the last time we saw each other was in San Francisco at the Mines and Minerals show, and the year prior they had over 200 booths. This time they only had 60 booths, And my thoughts on gold especially is that, number one, these are much safer investments than they were 2 years ago, obviously, because of the price decline. But with gold, you've got like a 20% downside risk and a 300 to 400% upside potential. It seems like it's a fairly safe investment at this point.
Yeah, that's very true, Dan. And for your listeners, it's especially true in silver, which is, as I keep commenting on, is a heavy affecting market this past month, I think, as I've ever seen. It's actually been this way for years, but it gets worse and worse, and I don't know what's going to take to flush it out. But the downside is $1 or $2 in silver, and I don't know, maybe $3, and the upside is $50 to $150. So the risk reward here is getting to the point where it's going off the charts. Now we may have a flush out coming, and that's the way it's acting. But when this is done, at some point here, it's going to go bonkers, and gold's going to go with it.
Yeah, now at this point, currency event or not, buying below the cost of the mining cost to produce it is a really good deal. And I've never been a ratio guy because the price is manipulated. However, I know that it's up to 66 to 1 now for the silver to gold ratio. Do you follow that at all?
Yeah, and that's where, I'm a big Eric Sprott fan, as many people know, and he's looking for the silver price to go nuts when this thing gets going, and he's looking for the gold-silver ratio to get somewhere back to where it's historic norm.
Bill Murphy of GATA and La Metropole Cafe. If you want to learn more about gold and get daily updates, you can subscribe to La Metropole Cafe, and I believe there's still a free trial offer, right, Bill?
Yeah, 2-week free trial, see if it's of use to people.
And then you can also subscribe to GATA, which is free, gata.org, and you'll get about 2 to 3 dispatches a day. To see Bill, you can see him in Dallas at the Stansberry event on May 31st. I think I'm going to try to make it there to see Bill, and it's a Stansberry event, so I'm sure it'll be first class as well. Bill, what do you plan on talking about at the Dallas event?
No, they've asked me for what I'm going to speak about. I think they're nervous. But I've got time to put it together here, and the basic thing I'm going to try to cover is why this is such an important issue for people that are there, and then also what you've touched on, that because of why it's important to know what they're doing, because here's what the prices of gold and silver are going to do. And as you've already talked about, the time to be buying in it is now, and the risk-reward setup is extraordinary, and it's liable to kick in out of nowhere. So I'm just going to try to lay out some 3 or 4 points for the attendees to keep in mind, because it's hard to put 15 years' worth of knowledge on this subject into one presentation.
Bill, I think talking to you has definitely made me want to go over there and support you. And I think you're going to have a very friendly audience. A lot of people came to Stansberry from the End of America video. So I think I'm going to end up packing up the Yukon and heading over there with the whole family. Well,
I'll tell you what, please let me know if you're coming. Love to see you.
Oh, yeah, Bill, my wife made it very clear to me before I started this interview that she wanted to make sure I said hello to you for her.
And congrats on your new kid.
All right, Bill. Thanks very much. You have a good one.
Hope to see you there. Take care.